In this lesson, we will read a grade 3 text, Mouse, Deer, and the Tigers. Now, this would be an Indonesian folktale. And Indonesia is an island nation, well, a cluster of island nations in Southeast Asia. So, we would have, and a folktale would just be a story that has cultural significance to a region. And this one would be specific to the geography and the animals that live on these different islands in Indonesia. King Tiger thought he was the greatest tiger in the world. While I do not know if that was true, he was certainly the greediest. One day he said to himself, I wonder if there is tasty food nearby on the island of Borneo. He called 3 of his strongest tigers and said to them, I have a job for you. You must swim to Borneo and ask their tiger king for food. Tell them the king of all tigers demands it. If they don't agree, we will attack. The king pulled out one of his large whiskers. Show him this, and he will see what kind of tiger he is dealing with. So we have our first character, King Tiger, and he has his 3 tiger companions, and they're going to be swimming to another island on this in the chain. And this island would be the one island of Borneo. And he also pulls out his whisker. So you could say the whisker symbolizes what a big scary tiger this King Tiger is. The 3 tigers swam over to Borneo, roaring all the way. Now there were no tigers on Borneo, but all the animals hid when they heard the strange sounds and splashes. All except for Mouse Deer. He didn't hear them because he was busy eating his lunch of tender grass. Suddenly he looked up and saw 3 pairs of golden eyes staring at him. Brave little morsel, isn't he? Said one of the tigers. We have a message for your tiger king. Where is he? Mouse Deer thought, we have no tiger king. We have no tigers. But if I tell them that, I will be lunch for these tigers. I must think fast, or I will be lunch for these tigers. And now we know, we meet our second character, which is little Mouse Deer here. And a mouse deer is a real animal, and it is living in Borneo. But we could say that Mouse Deer is our main character, or our protagonist. So we have Mouse Deer versus these other tigers. We could say Mouse Deer versus society, because there's kind of like a gang of tigers after him, not just one, so it wouldn't be character versus character. But technically, we could say Mouse Deer versus King Tiger, because he sent these 3 tigers basically to get food, which would consider Mouse Deer tiger food. He thought fast. I can take your message to our tiger king, he said, but you look tired. Rest in the shade, and I will get him. Good idea, said the bigger tiger. Tell him that he must give us food or we will attack. Show him King Tiger's whisker. The whisker was so big it made Mouse Deer tremble, but he bravely hurried away with it in his mouth. If I promise them food, they may eat me, he thought. What should I do? He bounded on. Finally, he had an idea. He found his friend Porcupine. Friend, the king of all tigers wants to attack Borneo, he said. He says he won't be able to fight him. Would you please let me have one of your quills? So porcupine would be an animal with a bunch of quills. So if this is a porcupine here, what he's asking for is one of those quills. And what is Mouse Deer going to do with it? Gladly, said Porcupine. Mouse Deer waited a while so that the tigers would think he had traveled far. When he came back, they said, well? Oh, great tiger, said Mouse Deer. When I reached our king, he was sharpening his claws between 2 mountains. I gave him your message. He said, good. It is too quiet around here. I'd be happy to fight that tiger. Send him over. Then he pulled out one of his whiskers for you to give your king. The tigers were astonished. They had never seen a whisker as big and thick as that. They turned and left for their long swim back. Mouse Deer pranced off on his tiny hooves. As soon as the tigers reached their island, they went to the king of all tigers. What took you so long? He roared. Well, one tiger said, the king of Borneo looks forward to fighting the king of all tigers. He sends his whisker. The king stared at it for a while. Then he spoke. I have been thinking while you were gone. We should demand food from the island of elephants instead of the island of Borneo. And that is why, even today, there are no tigers on Borneo. There are plenty of mouse deer, but no tigers. And we will see here. So what had happened that scared this king tiger so badly? We don't know the king tiger is actually scared. We know that he looked at the whisker and then completely changed his mind. He wants to go to another island now. So we could maybe assume that when mouse deer gave the tigers the porcupine's quill, they thought it was a whisker, because mouse deer said it was a whisker, but it wasn't a whisker. We know as the reader that it was actually a porcupine's quill. So you could say that is irony, because we know something that these tigers don't. Only us and mouse deer know. Not even king tiger knows. So now he's made this decision to not invade this island based on a lie from mouse deer. And now we will answer our questions for mouse deer and the tigers. So if you want to take a couple minutes, or as long as you need, to answer the multiple choice questions, and then press play when you have your answers. And our first question is for the word demand in paragraphs 2 and 21. So we want to know, does demand mean to correct, to look for, to work on, or to insist? And if we go back to paragraph 21, we should demand food from the island of Borneo. So in this one, they're demanding food. And then in the other one, tell them the king of all tigers demands it. So here he's also demanding food. What does it mean to demand? You wouldn't really correct food, right? You might look for, wouldn't work on it. To insist. So if we're going to be between insist and to look for, kind of sounds here, we should insist on food from the island. It could be look, but here in the first one, he does say, ask their tiger king for food. Tell them the king of all tigers demands it. So for this one, demand would have to be insist. So if you are insisting on something, you're demanding it, meaning you're saying, give it to me right now. What does the reader know? So this one, 19 is D. What does the reader know in paragraph 6 through 8 that the tigers do not know? King Tiger wants to take food from the island of Borneo. The tigers would know that, because that's why they were sent there. The island of Borneo has no tiger king. They didn't know that. Mouse Tiger is afraid of King Tiger's whisker. I'm pretty sure that they know that he's scared of the whisker, because it's pretty big, and they know very well they could eat him if they wanted to. The whisker from mouse deer is not from a tiger. All right, wait, but we want to go back and check paragraphs 6 through 8, right? Because if we go to 6 through 8, we know that mouse deer doesn't even have the whisker yet. So he doesn't get porcupine's whisker until paragraph 13. So therefore, it can't be one about the whisker. But in 6 and 8, here's mouse deer thinking. So this is mouse deer's point of view, or his thoughts and feelings. And here we know that he is thinking, they have no tiger king. They have no tigers. So for the second question, what does the reader know in paragraph 6 or 8 that the tigers do not know about the island of Borneo having no tiger king? The tigers don't know that. They also don't know, later in the story, they're not going to know that it's actually a porcupine quill. But This is only talking about paragraphs 6 through 8. So be careful when you're getting questions that are about specific paragraphs, because that's how they're trying to trick you. Paragraph 15 supports a theme of the story by showing that Mouse Deer honors the tigers, is clever and brave, is happy to be telling lies, finds his king. Now, a theme usually would be like a lesson of sorts, right? So now, if we go back to paragraph 15, I mean, is Mouse Deer happy to be telling the lies? In a way, because it's going to mean he doesn't get eaten, and neither do his friends. But he's sort of telling this lie out of a necessity, right? He has to tell the lie. So if we go back, I would have to say that it shows he is clever and brave. And that's often a theme in a story. You could say being clever and brave can sometimes win you more battles than being strong and aggressive, like a tiger. So in this, cleverness and bravery was the ultimate factor in winning the battle against getting eaten by the tiger. In paragraph 17, the phrase pranced off shows that Mouse Deer feels eager to run far away from the tigers, satisfied with how things went with the tigers, worried that the tigers will return with their king, surprised to see the tigers could swim. Now, when we think of the word pranced, you might think of the reindeers. There was one of the Santa's reindeers was Prancer. But when we see that he's prancing off on his tiny hooves, prancing would be like doing something in like kind of with a skip in your step, you could say. Not so much like a dance, kind of like dancing and walking a little bit. So at this point, they had left. And I would assume Mouse Deer is very happy that these tigers left because they were not going to be nice to him. So when we go back onto why he was prancing, he didn't really need to be eager to rush away from them because they were already swimming away. Satisfied with how things went with the tigers, worried that the tigers will return, surprised to see that they could swim. I don't think he cared about that. And typically, if you're prancing, it's because you're happy. So someone in a story was prancing, it would be because they're satisfied or happy with how things went. Because if he was worried, he probably wouldn't have been prancing. Which sentence best describes how Mouse Deer causes the event in paragraph 21? He sees 3 tigers looking at him. He carries Tiger King's whisker in his mouth. He asks Porcupine for one of his quills. He waits so the tigers will think he went far. He did do this, but now we want to know, out of all these actions, which one caused the event in paragraph 21? And if we go back here, paragraph 21, the king stared at it for a while. Then he spoke. I have been thinking while you were gone, we should demand food from the island of elephants instead of the island of Borneo. So for this one, what made Tiger King not want to go back to Borneo? He did look at the whisker for a long while. Then he spoke. So we can assume that he was maybe scared of this whisker and scared of the tiger that doesn't exist. So we could say asking Porcupine for one of his quills is what led King Tiger to not want to go to Borneo. So for this one, it has to be C. If Mouse Deer didn't get the quill, then he wouldn't have had any pretend whisker, and then the tigers would have certainly returned. What do the details in paragraph 21 suggest about King Tiger? He wants to avoid showing that he is scared. He believes there is more food on a different island. He knows that it is important to plan ahead. He thinks he is the greatest tiger in the world. Now, this one's kind of a tricky one, right? Because technically, he's saying out loud to his tiger subordinates, those that are below him or work for him, he is saying that he thinks there's more food on the other island, right? But if we go back to the beginning of the story, he was very, very gung-ho about this island having food. And by food, meaning other animals. So to change his mind so drastically or so dramatically, because then when they get back, he's like roaring at them, right? And if a tiger's roaring, you could say it's like yelling at them. But then he immediately gets quiet. So usually if somebody goes from yelling to like quiet right away, they might have realized that maybe they were wrong. Or they might have realized that maybe they're scared. So in this case, we can say that King Tiger is most certainly scared, but he doesn't want to let his tiger workers know that he's scared. So we would have to say here, he wants to avoid showing that he is scared. But we know as readers that he probably is. And that's why they chose a different island. Because elephants are really big. I think a tiger would kind of have a hard time taking down an elephant. They would have to have like a sick elephant or something. So there could be more food, but definitely harder to catch an elephant compared to a bunch of little animals. So for this one, it is A. And that is our folk tale, and what it was supposed to be to teach. It's teaching, this would be obviously a fantasy, well, it's a fiction story, because we don't know if this, obviously animals don't talk, right? We could also say this is somewhat of a fable with talking animals. But it's a folk tale that is supposed to explain the myth as to why there are no tigers on Borneo, because apparently these little mouse deers outsmarted them. So if you ever went to Borneo, you wouldn't see any tigers, but you would see mouse deers. And that is the end of this lesson. And if you're enjoying this lesson content, you can subscribe and comment below for other grade levels or story genres that you would like to see more of.